So today we're here to talk about democratised storytelling. And really the premise for that is that we all know that technology and social media have fuelled a seismic shift in how we communicate. And everybody has access to powerful tools to publish, to fundraise, to start a campaign, or instantly provide an eyewitness account. And so in this hyper-connected world, storytelling that doesn't encourage sharing or participation or creating will very quickly become media that the audience feel is not worth engaging with. And so really, within this context, how do charities and organisations become more open and collaborative in their storytelling in order to better engage and mobilise their audiences? So if I can just introduce our panel very quickly. At the end we have Nic, who's from Greenpeace. Nic is going to talk about their recent ice climb campaign. We have Rosie, who's from Google, and Rosie is going to share with us some examples of how people have been using and collaborating using Google Hangouts. And then we have Alice from Radar, who are a communication rights organisation that trains citizen journalists.
I think there are three main things that I want to pass on. One is in the world of democratised storytelling, if that's how we're going to refer to it, is probably just stating the obvious, but it's tell a story. And a lot of the time we move too fast to remember to do that because telling a story involves starting from the beginning, not waiting till it's finished. And that's what we decided to do with Ice Climb. So you can see here's the first tweet of our first tweet of the day, which was kind of giving people this announcement that this had just begun. Of course, just in case you weren't brave enough to put your hand up and say, I don't know what it was, we climbed the Shard in London in a really big sort of event for us that day. And these were our climbers. This was the second tweet we put out. Now I think, the quality of storytelling, people can talk about that forever, but one really important component obviously is it has characters. And these were our characters. They were real people, and they were tweeting themselves from the building. We didn't censor their tweets or vet them. We just let them do the storytelling themselves. There was enough of a sort of trust between the campaigners and the activists that these guys were capable of doing this, and more than anything, they had the best way to say it. So we allowed this story to sort of like begin to ask the question. And I guess after characters, the most important thing for a story is like, what is the question? Like, what's going to happen? And for us, it was jeopardy. Jeopardy is probably the most important element of any Greenpeace story. And that is, are they going to make it? Will it work? We didn't know. We had no idea. Another thing is that we told it live. And that's probably the last of the 3 points that I'd really want to pass on to anyone else who was ever trying to do this again, is you have to tell it. You have to be the storyteller. So you've got a story, you collaborate, and you are the storyteller. You don't give your press release to someone else and hope for the best. You actually tell the story yourself because you've got the media and the power to do that.
Okay, so the aim of the Eye Cancer crowding campaign was very simply to try and raise £2 million to fund research into an anti-cancer virus which was being developed by some scientists in Sweden. And so the main lessons that we learned from this crowdfunding campaign was that people really want to know where their money is going, and they really want to make sure that they want to feel as if they're making a difference. I think for me personally, having done a lot of campaigns that involve blogger outreach, for example, I think that there's definitely, particularly within those communities, I think there's definitely a feeling that there's a lot of campaigns that don't really have a tangible outcome or really any tangible benefits for taking part. And knowing very specifically where your money's going does make a difference. A classic example of this in the charity sector is charity water, where you fund a particular well, but then you also get back the GPS coordinates and photographs of exactly what your money has gone towards funding. And people want to be contributors to a project. So as I mentioned, our language in our pitch video and all of our content was very deliberate and precise. it was about us working together, not an organisation and supporters. Very subtle difference, but very important difference. And the storytelling is central and important. Really, echoing again what Nic was talking about with the ice climb example. And so for us, it was a classic David and Goliath story. It was us against them. And in addition to asking yourself, what story do I want to tell, you need to ask yourself, what story will engage my audience? So within your storytelling, what is it that you're asking them to do? So if they're going to talk about your story, think about what they're going to say and how they'll say it, and frame your story in the best way to help the audience do that.
I work on Google Plus in the UK marketing team at Google. I'm community manager for parenting and lifestyle sector. So what I thought I'd do is very briefly look at what Google Plus is all about and then look more specifically at Hangouts. Basically, it's a social platform centred around shared interests. So it's a stream of content, and a bit like Twitter, you choose who you follow based on what you're interested in. So as well as consuming content, you can also post your own updates, videos and photos, and take part in Hangouts, which we'll look at in a minute. And just to put it into context, it's not a standalone platform. It's also part of Google, which means it's becoming increasingly integrated with the rest of Google's products, including search, YouTube, etc. The idea is that it creates a social spine across the whole of Google. So looking to the future, you can broadcast what you want in a Hangout, but there are some emerging formats, Q&A sessions, meeting the politicians, and there's now a new Q&A app within Hangouts that allow the audience to submit questions. Just some examples here, we've got Angela Merkel doing a Q&A session, the BBC doing a discussion on life on Mars, and the Huffington Post are giving viewers the opportunity to be an on-air guest. So it's putting sort of ordinary people like you and I at the heart of the conversation.
I'm from Radar, which is a communication rights organisation, and we essentially train citizen journalists to report via mobile phone, even in locations where they don't have connection to the internet. Like this woman in Himachal Pradesh in northern India, where we were earlier this year. So we set up Radar because we felt that the people most impacted and vulnerable in the world are often the least likely to be able to report it. And so we have gone about creating a global network of citizen journalists reporting via mobile. We first deliver a rigorous journalism training, and we can add to that specific training such as on gender, on election reporting, health crises. We fit it to the context where we're working. A couple of tips to end, which Liz asked us to come with. I would say for those sending the stories, aside from the technology, you have to ensure that you have a really sturdy base of human support and human interaction for those people. A number of times, this kind of citizen-led reporting won't work if you extract the information and then leave them to it. They need that ongoing skill share, they need mentoring, they need encouragement, especially when you're working with like young women from very rural areas who perhaps traditionally their voices wouldn't be necessarily heard that frequently. And then you have to, and I think Liz spoke about this before, keep them updated on the story. Even if their story kind of comes to a natural end, there might be someone else talking about something similar. Recently we had a situation where we linked two people from different countries together who were writing about sexual violence and HIV. So there's lots of ways to keep that story going. I think Nic said that the story never ends. In terms of those receiving the stories, we're increasingly working with NGOs who are trying to get stories out from their beneficiaries in the field. I think it's really important that you kind of don't go in with too many preconceived ideas of what stories you want to get out and what you expect to get out. So expect to be kind of challenged, or that the stories you get might not fit kind of the ideas you originally had. But that's a good thing, because surely that's just going to make the voices and the stories more, more diverse and add plurality. And then essentially, hopefully, that plurality will be reflected in the media.